Sorry, I got a little interrupted there. Okay, so having Neptune in first typically means that there's some sort of you don't see yourself clearly. You see yourself through other people's eyes, or other people help you mold your ideas of yourself. It's also important to remember that Neptune connects to wherever Pisces is in your chart. Hers is in the third house. So this means the way that she communicates, the people that communicate around her affect her, the way she feels about herself. Also, things in the 12th house. So what does she have in the 12th house? Scorpio. So whatever the radical change that took place, that was her undoing, which was probably that sex tape, led to the karmatic change in who she was from this free spirit to the businesswoman. Totally makes sense because it seemed like she was perpetuating a certain character that she thought everyone wanted to see of her. And as soon as it sort of lines up, like, oh, well, all her bad characteristics adds up, this sex tape is all her fault. It created a serious change in who she was and what she wanted to do with herself. So this leads to her second house. The second house is all about the natural gifts you have to make money in this life. With her having that in Capricorn, skills of the businesswoman, skills of the family, of the legacy. But also you see here, she has Aquarius, where her sun and her Venus is. So she's definitely made for money, clearly. She shines in earning money, and just her personality and who she is. Now, with it being in Aquarius, this is online, this is through technology, this is through the groups of friends and people that she knows where she earns her most money in her income. I see also that she has her Mercury here, which explains why her personality is switchy. When you have a Mercury in Aquarius, this makes you first very dry. Remember, that's hot. Yes, that sort of dry. And she does speak rather dry, even when she's not using the little Barbie voice. But also, Aquarius Mercury has the ability to change back and forth based on who they're around. They have sort of this devil's advocate quality where they change, or they can argue any point based upon how they feel at that moment. Their thought processes and the way they speak and think is very interchangeable. Now, this leads to the fact that her third house is in the sign of Pisces. That puts a fog over her communication. It also means that it might not be legit, which makes total sense. But her Mars is here in Pisces. This means she's not really good with dealing with difficult situations, especially in regards to her siblings, the people around her on a regular basis where she grew up in that. It's sort of an illusion the way she communicates with them. This also means that she sort of says what people want to hear in order to make them feel better, which is to her detriment. But at the end of this cusp here is the sign of Aries. This means at some point she's going to say what she really wants to say, which I believe is what's going on here because Mars just entered Aries and it went into retrograde. So anything she had to say, anything that was really on her, now was the time to come out. So with her having Aries in the fourth, this means that the foundation she grew up with, or the home she came from, or the family are actually pretty brutal. This means violence. This means growing up somewhere loud, somewhere where there was issues and difficulties. Also parents who were pioneers, which makes sense because she comes from a chain of hotel owners. But also, if you watch the documentary, you saw the way that her parents treated her. They literally let her be snatched out of the house and dragged to this boot camp. And every time she ran away, when she said she was abused, they sent her right back. This leads to the fact that there's Taurus at the end here. And I believe this is going to come from when she gets her own family, or when she moves into her own space. Now, Taurus is the sign of luxury, wealth, relaxation, peace. And that's really honestly what she deserves after having this Aries in fourth. And that is where Uranus is currently transiting out here, giving her some change. So she's finding her peace. And the funny thing is finding peace in her creativity, because the fifth house is all about creativity, how you connect to your own unique self-expression and your first child. Now, with her having Chiron here, as you can see, she doesn't have any children. That means that there is a wound in her having her first child. And it was something that was meant to happen later on, if at all, because you see here, she doesn't have any planets in her marriage house either. That's actually quite interesting. With her fifth house being in the sign of Taurus, this means her natural gifts come through her voice, music, which makes sense because she makes majority of her money now as a DJ. She gets paid $1 million per gig. So music, art, she would also make a lot of money in weed. If she got into banking, which makes a lot of sense because, you know, her family's totally loaded. I'm pretty sure they have their hands in banking in some way, shape, or form. But this also means that she has a wound in her using her voice, which leads back to this Pisces in third. So there's a lot of things that Paris is not saying to anybody. And this documentary is probably really big for her. With this Taurus energy going in the sixth house, this means that every day of her life, she was meant to have opulence, luxury, peace. But also with this Gemini here, in order for her to stay afloat, besides that luxury and that peace and going outdoors and the finer things in life, she needs to learn. She's someone who needs to talk, somebody who needs to communicate. her strength she finds in building her knowledge. And this leads to the seventh house. Now, Gemini is where the North Node actually is, going through her marriage house. She was just in a relationship, but she dumped him on the documentary. I don't know how long ago that was, or if they got back together, but this would have been the time that she was coming into position to be married. There's still about 12 to 14 months left that the North Node goes to Gemini. But if it doesn't happen here, maybe she meets with the person that she was supposed to marry, or maybe possibly even she starts communicating with that person, but they don't get married yet. But that is going to lead to her learning on a day-to-day basis. She's going to be learning new things, working on a new type of business, because with her having Gemini in the seventh house, she doesn't want a partner that is not going to help her learn. This partner has to be a brain. But also with the Cancer here, they have to be caring and nurturing and understand her needs at home. This partner has to be ready and understand that they cannot cage her. That's really important. Intellect is important to her. Nurturing is important, but in balance, and she has to always have her independence, especially with the Sagittarius rising. Now this leads to Cancer and 8. What is the 8th house? The 8th house is all about sex, death, taxes, inheritances, other people's money. This is what she came to pretty much rule. This is also things that are traumatic, abuse, learning to deal with things that are burned down to rebuild. This is rebirth, the house of all the darker, seedier things that develop your soul in this life. And it's where her North Node is. This is her purpose. That means that her South Node, where she came from, is for family money. She meant to start with family money, and she was, money that she had acquired through her family on her own right here, because that Cap in second, and through being herself. But that was always meant to go into her sort of caping other people's money, so to speak, by using herself as her brand. Who also has this? Kylie Jenner. But Kylie is a Capricorn rising. Regardless, they are using their image to earn money, other people's money, particularly in a way that is through their own unique creativity, because that's what Leo is about. What is unique to you? Her voice is unique to her. Her presence, her brand is what gets her other people's money. It will lead her to, I'm not surprised, or I wouldn't be surprised, she didn't mention, if she had real estate or she had investments in the stock market. This is also where her moon is. Her feelings are in her business, getting the bag, and doing it by simply being herself, or whatever people need to see of her. Now with Cancer on the 8th here, this means that she actually she's a homebody. She likes regular, smegular sex. She just wants to be comfortable in her intimate relationships. She is able to help other people, or sort of have a mom energy for other people who dealt with difficult subjects because of what she has been through. She would be really good at helping others through trauma, which was also demonstrated in this documentary. Now with her having her moon in Leo here, this means that she has a really good idea for stock markets and jumping real estate. Her brain is geared for understanding how investments work. And that makes sense, definitely, along with the lines of the family and the education that she probably had access to. With the North Node here, she already stepped into her North Node purpose when she was 36, or started moving towards it, which is definitely why that DJ thing works, because Leo is also music, entertainment, fashion. Although fashion you see a lot in Libra, Leo is very important because it's about the regality of it. Now this 9th house in Virgo means that eventually she's supposed to move into being more of a healer, more of somebody who uses her voice to help other people in other countries, because the 9th house is about foreign lands, foreign travel, philosophy. She's just supposed to share the wealth of her experiences with others to help them heal, which I believe that she is starting on the path to do. Now with her MC in Libra, this means that the peak for her in her life would be being in a partnership or working in fashion, doing something that brings balance. And I believe that is really what's going on now. She has 3 planets here in her 10th house. That means the way that she is seen by the world. So when she steps into fashion, things will multiply for her. That is absolutely correct. Her beauty line is amazing. Her clothing, her perfume, all of that has brought multiplication to her wealth. And because Sagittarius is her rising, it's brought accumulation to this first house, which is important to know. Now with her having Saturn in 10th, that means that there was a restriction on her even getting into a marriage or a serious partnership until after she had accomplished her financial goals, her career goals, because of that Saturn there. Now with Pluto in Libra here, this means that there was also always going to be a relationship that came along that sort of transformed her whole reputation. I believe we know what that is based upon the fact that this belongs to Scorpio, and Scorpio is in her 12th house. This means that seedy relationship changed her image, changed the way she made money. But little did she know it changed it for the better, because anything that happens in Libra affects what happens in Aries. So it changed the relationship she had with her family, which definitely was the case because her family disowned her. They wrote her out of the will because she had a sex tape. But this led her to move away from this area here to here. So now she's creatively, she's free to do what she wants to. She doesn't have to worry about her parents because the bridge was already burned so far. She got to go DJ. Who would have imagined, right? With this Pluto here, she might be traumatized from relationships. She might have a hard time with that going forward because she's afraid of any damage to her image going forward. But absolutely, it's an important point for her, especially getting over that Scorpio energy that is at the cusp here. So now her reputation is going to be seen as a little seedier. You're going to learn about her uncovering dark things because of that Scorpio thing, which is definitely what was taking place here. Now, the 11th house in Scorpio means that she comes, this is about your groups, the people you connect with, the causes you believe in, the way that you are a part of the collective. Also, wishes, dreams, aspirations, as well as technology, humanitarianism online. Now, with that being a Scorpio, this means she comes from groups of seedy people, which makes sense. Hollywood families, that's a whole nother story. But also that she wants to uncover dark things. She wants to meet with people who have been through trauma, who have been through darker things, and they just sort of help feed each other and help uncover or heal. Because Scorpio is about healing too. It's just healing from way darker stuff. Or in cases some people don't, and you just naturally draw seedy, manipulative people to you until you learn how to not be possessive or controlling in your friendships. Now, the last house we have here is the 12th house, which is the house of self-undoing, things that could take us out of the game pretty much, karma. Now, with her having this Uranus in Scorpio, in the 12th house, this leads to Uranus is ruled by the 11th house. This means that her groups of friends changed because of what happened with her sex tape. She probably lost a lot of people that were important to her and she didn't know that. But this was always meant to push her to this Sagittarius side, because the undoing here is the fact that if she did not allow herself to be free, if she did not allow herself to travel, to get away from her family, to build her own thoughts on life, it would have been her mental undoing. She's meant to be a free spirit, to step into what she wants to, and it's away from her family. Her family would actually be to her detriment the more she tried, especially she's about to find that out now because Mars is going through Aries along with Chiron. So any old family wounds are coming up right now to be healed. And that's for anybody who is a Sag or possibly a Cap rising. So I bet the Kardashian house is going wild because they have a lot of that over there. Thank you guys so much for this opportunity. If you are interested in getting your own reading like this, I am available through September 31st because I'm going to take a break during October when the veil is thin because I don't want to be anybody's energy field when like ghosts are on the loose. So I am accepting readings. You can actually hit me on my website, www.basicrising.com. My Facebook is All Hail the Basics, as well as my Instagram. I can be messaged on any of those, or even emailed at allhailthebasics@gmail.com. If you have any questions, please comment below. Thank you so much for this opportunity.